My name is Alara Whitmore. I was 32 years old when I finally understood that love can become a leash if you keep pretending that tugging is affection. I had always thought of myself as patient. Maybe too patient. The kind of woman who explained things twice, softened her voice during arguments, and gave people room to be better, even when they kept proving they had no intention of changing. But everyone has a breaking point. Mine came when Gavin Cole stood in my own flat, red-faced and shaking with rage, screaming at me about how I was allowed to spend my money. Gavin was 29. Charming when he wanted to be. Handsome. In that careless way that made strangers forgive him before he even apologized. We had been together nearly 2 years. The first year was brilliant. Passionate. Funny. Full of late-night takeaways. Weekend walks. And messages that made me smile at my desk like a fool. Then, slowly, the sweetness started coming with conditions. At first, it was just little comments. You're really buying that for yourself. Must be nice not having to think about anyone else. My ex-girlfriend Nadia never made money feel awkward. That last one should have warned me. Nadia's name appeared whenever Gavin wanted me to feel replaceable. She was his ex-girlfriend. Supposedly ancient history. But somehow always useful as a comparison when he wanted to win. 8 months before everything collapsed, Gavin moved into my flat. My flat. I owned it before he arrived with his trainers, his gaming chair, and 3 boxes of clothes he never fully unpacked. We agreed he would cover groceries and utilities, while I handled the mortgage and larger expenses. It seemed fair. Simple. I'll do it. Except the groceries became basic stuff unless I chipped in for the things he actually wanted. The utility bills were suddenly a bit much this month. His contributions got smaller, while his expectations got louder. He started hinting about needing a new laptop, then a better watch, then weekend breaks, because, according to him, relationships need experiences. Ilara. What he meant was, my bank account needed to provide them. I ignored too much. I told myself he was stressed. I told myself love required generosity. I told myself a man could be insecure without being manipulative. Then, last Friday happened. I had received a decent bonus from work. Nothing life-changing, but enough to breathe a little easier. I mentioned it casually while making tea, thinking maybe we could replace my aging television. Maybe put most of it into savings. Gavin's eyes lit up before I had even finished speaking. Oh, amazing, he said, leaning against the counter, like the money had landed in his account. You know that spa weekend Nadia mentioned? The one with the private suite and champagne breakfast? We should absolutely go. I blinked. Nadia mentioned. He waved a hand. Don't start. It was just a post. And I saw this jacket online too. Proper quality. You always say I should invest in better clothes. I don't think I've ever said that. His smile thinned. I tried to keep my voice calm. Hold on. Gavin. I was thinking of something more practical. Maybe save most of it. The change in him was instant. Practical, he said. Are you serious? It's my bonus. And your first thought isn't treating me? I set my mug down slowly. We can discuss doing something nice together. But I'm not spending it all on a whim. Definitely not because you demand it. My demands, he scoffed. Loud and ugly. It's about us. Don't you want me happy? Don't you want your boyfriend to look good? Your colleagues' partners have nice things? This isn't about my colleagues. No? It's about you being selfish. There it was. The word he always reached for when I didn't immediately surrender. I stood across from him in the kitchen, hearing the hum of the fridge, the soft tick of the wall clock, the rain tapping the window. Everything outside me felt ordinary. Everything inside me was beginning to sharpen. This is about respecting my finances, I said, and making decisions together. That was when he lost it. Proper shouting. Accusation. Ingratitude. How I clearly didn't love him. How a real girlfriend would want to spoil her man. How Nadia understood passion better than I ever could. Then came the line that ended us. You'll do as I say with your money. Or, I'll get lost. You choose. Something inside me clicked. Not rage. Not panic. Clarity. This was not a partnership. It was a hostage negotiation with my bank account. I looked at him, smiled a small, tight smile, and said, "All right." Then I walked into the bedroom. For a moment, he followed me in silence, probably thinking I was going to cry, apologize, or pull him close and promise to be better. Instead, I pulled his suitcase from the top of the wardrobe. "What are you doing?" he snapped. I opened it on the bed and began packing his clothes. Shirts, jeans, reinas. The expensive hoodie he claimed he bought himself. Even though I remembered the charge on my card, I folded some things, stuffed others. I collected his aftershave from the bathroom, his chargers from the living room, his protein tubs from the kitchen. The ridiculous cushions he insisted made the flat look less cold. "Elara," he said, voice rising again. "Stop being dramatic." I didn't answer. That made him worse. He called me cold, crazy, ungrateful. Said no man would tolerate a woman acting like this. Said I would regret humiliating him. 20 minutes later, I carried the first suitcase to the front door. He was still yelling when I opened it. I threw the suitcase onto the small grass patch outside. Then the second. Then, 2 black bin bags full of overflow. Gavin stood there, with his mouth open. I turned back to him and said, "You told me to do as you say, or you'd get lost. I'm not doing as you say." I gestured toward the door. "So get lost." Then I closed the door in his face, locked it, engaged the deadbolt, and put the chain on. My hands trembled after that. Not from doubt, from release. For several minutes, he banged on the door, shouting my name, switching between threats and disbelief. Then, finally, silence. I looked through the peephole and watched him drag his belongings toward his hatchback in the rain. That was Friday night. By Tuesday afternoon, I had heard nothing directly from him. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something made me answer. "Elara, Elara. How could you?" A woman's voice, choking with tears. "Marianne, Gavin's mother. Here we go." Marianne was sobbing so hard I barely recognized her voice. "Elara," she cried. "How could you do this to my poor Gavin? You threw him out onto the street with nothing." I closed my eyes for a second, before answering, "That isn't what happened." "Marianne, how can you even say that he's devastated? He gave me an ultimatum about my own finances. He screamed that I either obeyed him or he would leave. I simply accepted his decision. But he has nowhere to go." I almost laughed. Gavin was 29 years old. He had a full-time job, plenty of friends, and enough confidence to lecture strangers about success every chance he got. Somehow, according to his mother, he had suddenly become helpless. "He's staying on my sofa," Marianne continued between sobs. "He's heartbroken. You treated him like he meant nothing." I kept my voice level. "He made his choice." She ignored that completely. "He told me you received a huge bonus and refused to help him. He only needed money for his car payment." Car payment. Friday's conversation flashed through my mind. The luxury spa, the designer jacket, the expensive weekend. Not a single word about a struggling car payment. That isn't true. I replied calmly. He wanted me to spend nearly all of my bonus on luxury things he wanted immediately. When I suggested saving most of it, he shouted at me, "You women always make men sound worse than they are." That sentence told me the conversation was already over. The relationship has ended. "Mariana, you need to apologize and bring him home." That won't be happening. You owe him compensation for the emotional distress you've caused. I actually blinked. Compensation. For refusing to surrender my own money. My decision is final. I said quietly. Goodbye. I ended the call. Within seconds my phone exploded. First came Gavin. You'll regret this. Then another. Babe. Please answer. Then another. We can fix this. Minutes later, the messages changed again. You're ruining everything. You're selfish. You'll end up alone. His emotions swung wildly between begging and fury. Marianne joined in shortly afterward, with accusations that I had destroyed her son's future. I blocked both numbers. For the first time in days. My flat became silent again. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Tuesday evening. I received an email from Amazon. Attempted purchase declined. $500 in gift cards. Someone had tried using my account. Fortunately, the payment failed because my bank had already required additional verification. I checked the login history. One of Gavin's old devices was still connected. I immediately signed out every device. Changed my password. And enabled two-factor authentication. The next surprise arrived Wednesday morning. My letting agent called. Ilara. I thought you should know. Someone claiming to be your fiancé phoned asking for emergency access to your property. My fiancé. He said there was a serious leak and we needed to let him inside. My stomach tightened. That wasn't my fiancé. I assumed as much. I refused. Another boundary crossed. Another reminder that Gavin still believed he deserved access to my life. Then the rumors began. Friends started texting. Everything okay? We heard things ended badly. One message finally explained why. Apparently Gavin had been telling everyone I threw him out without warning because I didn't want to support him financially. Even worse, Nadia, his ex-girlfriend, had begun repeating the story to mutual acquaintances, painting me as controlling, unstable, and obsessed with money. The irony almost made me laugh. The woman he had constantly insisted was just an ex had suddenly become one of his loudest supporters. Packing his bags had only been the first battle. Now I needed to protect myself properly. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of Gavin's abusive messages before blocking him. The Amazon security notification. Notes from my letting agent describing the fake emergency call. Messages from friends describing the rumors. Everything went into one folder. If this became uglier, I wanted facts instead of emotions. Then I changed every password I owned. Banking, streaming services, email, social media, cloud storage. I activated two-factor authentication everywhere. I checked my credit report. Thankfully, nothing unusual appeared. Next, I gathered the last few things Gavin had left behind. Books, a charger, a shaving kit, several random cables, a hoodie stuffed behind the sofa. I packed everything neatly into one cardboard box, sealed it with tape, and sent one final message. Your attempts to access my accounts and property have been documented. Your remaining belongings are boxed. Tell me by Friday when you want to collect them. After that, they will be disposed of. Do not contact me again unless it concerns collection. That was the last direct message I ever sent him. Whenever mutual friends asked what had happened, I refused to argue. I simply said, the relationship ended after Gavin gave me an ultimatum about my finances. His actions afterward confirmed I made the right decision. Some believed me immediately. Others didn't. That was fine. People determined to misunderstand usually succeed. Friday came. No reply. Saturday passed. Nothing. Sunday morning I carried the box downstairs. Placed it beside the communal bins. Took one photograph. Sent it to Gavin. And blocked his number again. Then another problem appeared. A bill arrived for a luxury clothing subscription addressed to my flat. I'd never heard of the company. Inside was a notice demanding nearly $300. After several phone calls, I learned the account had been opened months earlier, using Gavin's details, but my address. Either he'd used an old payment method linked to me, or expected I would never notice while we were together. When I updated my financial information after the breakup, Future payments failed. Now the company wanted someone to pay. It wasn't going to be me. I explained the entire situation. I provided the date Gavin moved out. I offered copies of my documentation. I even stated I was willing to file a police report if necessary. A week later, they confirmed the account had been opened fraudulently. The debt disappeared from my name. They would pursue Gavin instead. $300 wasn't life-changing, but the principle mattered. Actions have consequences. The rumors slowly faded too. Apparently Nadia already had a reputation for creating drama wherever she went. After she repeated increasingly exaggerated versions of our breakup, several people questioned why she cared so much about her ex-boyfriend's failed relationship. Another mutual friend quietly corrected the story. Within days, the gossip lost momentum. About a month after I sent the photo of the box by the bins, the silence became complete. No more calls. No more messages. No more fake emergencies. No more attempts to access my accounts. Through mutual friends, I heard occasional updates. Living with Marianne hadn't gone the way Gavin imagined. Supporting an entitled adult son indefinitely was far less enjoyable than defending him over the phone. The sympathy wore out, especially once debt collectors started contacting him over accounts that actually belonged to him. There was no dramatic confrontation. No movie-style revenge. Just the slow weight of consequences, settling exactly where they belonged. Gavin tried to control my money. He failed. He tried guilt. He failed. He tried manipulation. He failed. He tried fraud. He failed. He tried using other people to attack my reputation. That failed too. The only thing that remained was silence. Sometimes I still feel a small sadness when I remember the man I thought I loved. Then I remember him screaming in my kitchen, demanding control over my earnings, as if my success somehow belonged to him. The sadness disappears. I used part of my bonus to buy the new television I'd originally wanted. The rest went into savings. That evening, I ordered my favorite curry, poured myself a cold drink, curled up on my sofa, and realized something unexpected. The flat didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. I've been focusing on work since then. Reconnecting with friends, Gavin subtly pushed out of my life, and rediscovering how calm, ordinary days can feel when no one is measuring your worth by your wallet. Maybe I'll date again someday. Not yet. For now, peace is enough. And if I ever ignore red flags again, they certainly won't be the ones waving every time money enters the conversation.